All right, Treasury Talent community, thank you for joining us for another live discussion. We've got a good one today, and we're going to be doing something different today. I think you guys are really going to love this. So Simon, Scotty, Joe, and myself are joined here today with Tony Riegel. He is the Treasurer of Integrated Project Systems. Tony, welcome. Thank you for joining us all today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So what we're going to do today, guys, is we are going to get a little technical. It's going to be miles over my head and right up your guys' alley. So we're going to, do some Q&A with Tony, and then we're going to also open it up so maybe you guys can ask him some questions as well. But Tony, before we get into all the fun stuff, man, where are you located in the world right now?
So I am just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, getting used to the new normal that is the world today.
Yep.
So, as I'm sure most of us are.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And has your company been able to get back into work yet, or are you guys still working remote?
So we've actually been talking about it. I've seen some memos kind of come through. It looks like we're going to start doing like a phased approach after the 4th of July holiday weekend. So I have been coming into the office, and it's because we have to cash our checks, right? I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. So I report to the CFO, and he wanted me to come in and, do the depositing of the check. So for that reason, I do come in from time to time. But starting after this weekend, I think we're going to do maybe like group 1 comes in these days, group 2 comes in these days. And I know that they're kind of changing the office up around to make it so that people aren't next to each other. So it's going to be good getting back in, man, because it's just tough at home. And I don't know about you guys, but I have two little ones at home. So I have a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my wife is a nurse practitioner, and she rounds at different nursing home facilities in our area. And which means that in addition to my 50, 60 hour a week work week that I usually put in, I've been doing
daddy daycare.
And like schoolwork. Like I got in trouble by a kindergarten teacher for having a homework assignment late a few weeks ago. So it's just a lot of adjusting and just getting used to it. And I'm sure we can all kind of relate to the challenges that come with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would you say, can you share a little bit about your journey going from, you're the treasurer now at IPS? I mean, tell us a little bit about your career path to get there, if you don't mind.
Sure. So my undergrad degree was in finance and accounting. Back then, I couldn't have even told you what treasury was. In fact, most people, when they ask me what I do, I just say finance, because anytime I say I'm in treasury, they automatically think I work for the government, which, is kind of funny. They don't really understand that there's a whole corporate treasury group and the different things that they do. But I got into it on the banking side. So I worked for Wells Fargo, and I was a treasury specialist. So a lot of us treasury professionals will work with banks to answer questions, to look into different things, and kind of be the resource for us. The partner in the things that we do. I started out on that side of things, and that's kind of how I got my first taste of the field. From there, I moved on to corporate treasury. I worked for a water company called Aqua America. Started out at the very bottom, doing analytical work, inputting wires, ACHs, some reconciliations, making requests for draws on various loans, and getting into the reporting side of things, learning about, what it is that the decision makers look for, and learning exactly what it is I need to do to produce for these people to, help them understand the financial position of the business. That was the last place I worked at. And I was probably, I was fresh, 2 years out of college. I was, 25, worked there for, 3 or so years. And that was the last place I worked that had an established treasury department, which is kind of a theme with my career. It's just finding that most companies don't have this type of infrastructure. And if they do, it's like a brand new thing. So from there, I had an opportunity to work with Penske Truck Leasing. It was a job had opened up that was close to where I was from originally. So it was nice to kind of be able to move closer to home. And in addition, it was a really strong company. I mean, I'm sure many people heard of Penske. I mean, they have a big group, the racing branch of that company, which, I mean, I don't know if you guys are racing fans. I don't see the draw behind it. I mean, I guess, you know, but they are like super into NASCAR. Like, you know, every quarter the guy, would bring his stock car in, and people would go out and look at the car, and he would rev his engine, and they would all go nuts, and they loved it. And on top of it, that Dancing with the Stars show, the guy from Penske the driver from Penske was a participant in that. So, you know, I got an introduction to not only Treasury, but NASCAR and Dancing with the Stars. So that was fun. But Penske, you know, believe it or not, I mean, they were a huge company, right? I mean, right. The truck leasing piece alone, they were $10 billion a year in revenue. They were a subsidiary of General Electric, and I won't get into the story behind it, but basically what happened was the ownership shifted. The majority went back to the partners, which was Roger Penske and the group, and the services, the treasury services that GE was providing Penske, essentially got the government came in and said, we can't allow you to treat Penske Truck Leasing as a wholly owned subsidiary. You need to go out and get your own treasury department. So they had hired me to come in. Really, like, to be honest with you, like, I'm thankful I got the job, but like, you know, I don't know that I necessarily earned it at that point in my career. It was pretty lofty from where I came from with Aqua America. There, like, we started from scratch. We had to go out and get rated by the rating agencies. So, you know, we had to put presentations together from Moody's and S&P and come up with a debt structure. You know, were we going to do a revolver? How are we going to refinance the current debt? We had some subsidiaries in Canada. So that was my first taste of the international space, which I hadn't done before because Aqua America was totally domestic. But there, I mean, it was a stressful job as well, because when we came off of the GE revolver, we had to go live like that day. So on day one, we had to pay down all of our debt, and day two, I had to make borrowing decisions every single day to make sure we covered, you know, the working capital required for the business. So, you know, if I didn't borrow enough on a payroll day, payroll doesn't go out. It's like, and I'm sure a lot of you can appreciate this. I mean, there's different restrictions on how you can borrow, and you know, there's cutoff times. So like by 11 o'clock, I need to know how much I'm going to need to borrow. And, you know, that's when I really got into just forecasting, like really understanding the cash flows of the business. And yeah, I was still doing the, you know, wires and ACHs and that kind of thing. But here, like, you know, I went and set up the bank accounts and you know, made it efficient. So we have a ZBA structure. So I can just fund the top tier account and have that filter out through and you know, make sure that each you know, each entity of the business is funded. And, you know, that was a really fun job. It was stressful, but, you know, I got to learn a lot of different things, and you know, I moved up there pretty fastly, and it was a great experience. But from there, I had the opportunity to do sort of the same thing with a company called Triumph Group. So Triumph Group is an aerospace and defense company. So I remember, you know, and you guys, again, like, I'm sure you know this better than anybody. It's just when you interview now with these companies, right, you go through a gauntlet. It's not like you're talking to one person and then you're coming in and the next day you're talking to the next person. Like, you know, you're talking to every department of the company, and it's an all-day affair. So it's like, it's a, to make, to have the decision to make the decision to move on to a new company, you got to be pretty certain to do it, because you're giving up like a full day of your life to go and do this. And then there's multiple callbacks and you're giving up more days. And it's just like, I remember at the time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I was just like, you know, do I really want to go through all this to, you know, take this job? But at the end of the day, I did. And I remember talking to the treasurer at the time, and he said something to me that I'll never forget. And he's like, you know, I need you because you understand Treasury. And I want you to know that I know nothing about Treasury, nothing. And this is the treasurer of a $5 billion a year in revenue company telling me that, you know, he knows nothing. They have no Treasury department. They need somebody that's going to come in and build it. And, you know, he was looking to my experience of what I did at Penske. And there was, you know, different challenges. They were implementing a Treasury workstation, which I had some experience with, a SunGuard platform. It was an acquired platform that we used at Aqua. It wasn't their premier one, it was called XRT, but there we were implementing SunGuard Integrity. They had a lot of different challenges. They needed to understand the cash positioning. There were talk of you know, refinancing some of their term debt, some of their senior notes. They needed some help restructuring their covenants. They needed modeling on their covenants, and then the implementation of a Treasury workstation, which is a bear. I mean, for anybody who's had to do that before, it is just something that is just, it's a, you know, when you buy a Treasury workstation, you know, the way I describe it is like, you think you're, and it's a lofty investment. I mean, millions of dollars in some cases, right? Like, you think you're buying this beautiful piece of art that you're going to get. And what I found was, we didn't get a piece of art, we got a blank canvas, and it was our job to paint the thing. And what I mean by that is, you had to, I mean, you know, I learned that just the wrapping of IT and just that kind of knowledge, it really intertwines with Treasury. You really got to understand, you know, the different type of file types there are, the different payment types, the kind of the behind the scenes connectivity between the different banks. There's a lot of stuff to it. And there again, I got a whole different kind of taste of, you know, some of the regular stuff with, you know, just your basic reporting and cash positioning and forecasting. And there I got my first real taste of international. We were pretty much everywhere across the globe. You know, we did all of our manufacturing overseas, whether it was Mexico or Thailand or, you know, anywhere in a few different places in Asia Pac. And, you know, there I got my real first taste of just foreign exposure and what it takes to kind of manage that risk. So it's like, you know, I didn't get a chance to learn to swim. I just jumped into the pool, and it was like, you know, I'm either going to drown or I'm going to stay afloat. And it's like, I found that was the best way to learn. You know, all the stuff that you do in academia, whether it's your MBA or your CTP, it really doesn't prepare you for like what's out there in the real world. And
Yeah.
you know, just, you know, all the stuff you get in the books, it's just, you throw that out the window. I mean, like, you really got to roll your sleeves up and get your hands dirty. And that's kind of what I had to do there, and just learn those types of different things. And yeah, I mean, it was a good experience. From there, you know, it was a tough decision to leave Triumph. You know, I had worked very hard at that company, but there was just some organizational challenges that they had that, you know, it just, it was tough. It was a tough decision to leave. And, you know, I was being bred to be the treasurer of the company. And, you know, at the time I had talked to my boss and just was upfront with him, and, you know, just asked his advice about what I should do, what he thinks I should do with my career. And, And he was all for it. It just made sense for me to make the move and sort of take a step back a little bit and, come into another place, which I'm at now, called Integrated Project Services. It's so here again, no Treasury department. There was a lot of work to be done here. A lot of just basic infrastructure we needed. I mean, something I'm sure a lot of us see is just bank accounts at all different banks and just no kind of methodology behind it, and not a good revolving credit facility, and just a lot of just things with infrastructure kind of needed to take place. And here I kind of, got the chance to just take the lead 100%. Like, it was just me making all the decisions, and I got the chance to do so when I came here, I kind of inherited a revolving credit facility. But I just wasn't happy with the partner bank. They made a lot of promises to us overseas, particularly in China, one where, they said they could do some things that they really couldn't do. And it was funny. It's because it was like, they could do it, but just not for us. And I find that a lot in China. It's like, you need the scale to really get your banking partners to want to help you. And, just with that being said, like I did an entire, RFP for a brand new revolving credit facility, which refinanced the old one. And, we did a revolving line and a piece of term debt. And, from there, changing out all the old bank accounts into the new bank accounts, setting up the structure, domestic and international, also setting up an international credit facility to manage that side of things. So here it's just been a really, really good run so far. And at the end of the day, it was a great decision for me to come here. And, just kind of hearing it out loud, it's like the one thing I always tell people is like Treasury it's like the universal language of business. Like we speak all languages, right? It's like, I was with a water company. I was with a truck leasing company. Now I'm with a company like here at IPS. We work with pharmaceuticals. We design and build pharmaceutical buildings. I mean, it is very specialized, and these companies, big companies, J&J and Merck and Pfizer, when they need to manufacture a drug, like you need to know what you're doing. And we just have a large team of experts here that are able to provide just a full service to the customer, where it's like, there are some companies out there that'll do just the engineering and design part of it, but we do it from beginning to end, right? So we design it, we build it, and then we do, validation at the end. I mean, so, we'll take a customer like Merck who will say like, hey, we're thinking of testing out a new coronavirus vaccine, and we need you to build us a building that's going to help with the manufacturing of that drug. Here's the specs we need, like, go ahead and do it for us. And we'll design it and take it all the way to the end. And it's, I guess my point is just, we don't need to be tied to any specific industry. Like, we speak every language, and it's a unique thing in just the finance industry. Like, you have these industry professionals where it's like, here, it doesn't matter. Like, money's green and the needs are the same no matter where you go. And it offers flexibility of your career. And yeah, I mean, like, it's been a good ride for me with Treasury. It's, I tell my friends, it's not like I'm out shooting hoops all day, or out at the golf course, but at the end of the day, I mean, I really enjoy it. It's fun. It's like your day's mixed up. You're doing different things, and not every day is different, and there's different challenges, and it's a really good career. And I encourage anybody that is looking to find a path. Hopefully you'll get lucky like I did and just mistakenly fall into it. And,
Funny, Tony, the number of people who do fall into Treasury, but once you get bitten by the Treasury bug, not many people leave.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true, because it's exciting, and it's a good career, for sure.
Tony, if we can just sort of turn to the technical side, thank you very much for giving us your background there.
Sure.
I know a lot of the listeners out there are keen to sort of understand a little bit more around the foreign exchange and the international side of things that you've been involved in. What are some of the different types of exposure around foreign exchange?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. So I think there's three different types of exposure that that are out there with Treasury. The first is the economic exposure, right? And what that is it's like, what's the long-term effect on the present value of your future cash flows? Now, this is just a risk of the market as a whole, and it's kind of topical now because of things that are going on with the coronavirus. I mean, who knows if just things are going to go nuts, and it's happened, right? Like the rates have been slashed. I don't know how many of you out there are locked into some kind of or have some kind of a piece of debt where you have a floating piece of interest. Like, for instance, if you're locked in a 1 month LIBOR and it gets revalued every month, like right now is the best time to enter into an interest rate swap. You can lock in at rates that are just down to 2008 levels. So that's the first type of risk, which is the economic. The second type of risk is translation exposure. So this is created when one of your foreign subsidiaries' financials are translated into the parent company's home currency as part of the process of consolidating your financial statements. So I kind of refer to this as accounting exposure. Now, I don't have too much experience with this. Fortunately, I've been lucky enough to have good, strong accounting departments who kind of run with most of this, but it is still a topic that is of interest to us Treasury professionals, and it's probably important to a lot of you. So for most companies, you can refer to the IAS 21 standard, which is it's the effects of changes in foreign exchange rates, I believe. So that provides guidance for determining the impact of changing FX rates when you translate the foreign currency into your home currency. And then in the US, the GAAP guideline for this can be found in the ASC codification topic 830, I believe, which is on foreign currency translation. So in both cases there, the general approach that they suggest is to try to insulate the effects of translation gains and losses from earnings for the period by placing those changes into special equity accounts. Now, again, like this, you really want to refer to your accountants to kind of give better guidance on this. I'm kind of giving just a high level overview. But in addition to this is where you kind of get into balance sheet hedging. So just at a high level, a balance sheet hedge is where a company matches its assets in a foreign currency with an equal amount of liabilities in the same foreign currency. So its exposure net is zero. So I'll give you two methods for this that I think you can kind of look up and do some more research on. But the two methods of balance sheet hedging that I am familiar with, the first is called the current method, and the third is the temporal method. Again, there's a lot of resources out there for that. I've been lucky enough that I haven't had to do too much of this in my past, but it is a big topic for a lot of you. I mean, especially if you have foreign subs and you got to just translate the financials back into your home currency. So the third is the transaction exposure. So this is where I think, like most of us, are going to really have the most work that we have to do. This is where I've seen a lot of different. I've had to do a lot of different things with, and this type of exposure is where your future accounts receivable or accounts payable is denominated in a currency other than your functional currency. So, Simon, I don't know if I kind of just, I'm going off on a tangent here. I can kind of slow down if you want to.
No, that's good, Tony. Like, again, as I said to you before we came on, we're not super technical, but all of our listeners are. So whilst that was way over my head, the people that are listening and want to know about it was perfect.
I think I got the balance sheet part.
Yeah, I understood balance sheet. That was good.
You said net zero. I could add up to that.
Yeah, that's the thing with accountants. Everything's got to equal zero, right? So like, that's at the end of the day, if everything's zero, you're good to go. So but, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, out of the types of transaction exposures, what's the most important to you when it comes to financial risk management? And I guess where, I think you kind of led into this earlier, but where's your sweet spot? What's most important to you?
Sure. So I'll just give just a real easy example of what exactly this is, right? So like, say you're a U.S. company, right? And you agree to sell merchandise in the UK in euros at a certain price, let's say, and you're going to expect to receive payment in 3 months, right? So, So at the point of sale, that transaction is recorded in revenue and in accounts receivable in US dollars, right? But in 3 months, when you receive that amount in euros, the relationship of USD to euro is going to change. It's not going to be what it was at that point in sale. So here, the gains and losses are going to be recorded on your company's income statement. So in this type of example, and this is a common one, what I would suggest is an invoice level hedge. So, you're selling something and you're expecting payment in 3 months. What I would do in this case is, and assuming you have a partner bank, you reach out to your partner bank and you say, you want to enter into a future forward, you want to enter into a forward contract where you are going to lock in that euro to USD rate now. So you could even build that, once you have that number, you can build that into your invoice. So, obviously your bank is going to want to take a haircut on it. And, you're not going to get the rate that's equal to the spot at that point in time, but you can build it into your invoice. So if like I said, the due date of the AR, you can kind of lock into that. Now, one thing I also want to mention too is what happens if it's a customer that you're afraid they might not pay you in time. And, now you're locked into this forward contract with your bank where you need to exchange the euros that you would have received to get your dollars back, right? And there's some risk there. There's some invoice risk. There is a product called a window hedge. And what a window hedge is, it allows you to lock into the forward at the same way you would with a regular vanilla forward. But with a window hedge, it gives you a period of time in which you can execute it. So what you'd say to your bank is like, hey, during the month of August, I'm going to initiate this forward. And sometime in August, I'm going to execute it. That way you're not locked into you're not locked into a day. And what if they pay you late? Like your bank's not going to allow you to not go forward with the trade. So that kind of takes the risk out of it a little bit. And I think that is the best product to use for that specific situation. The other example for a transaction exposure is, one of the things that I deal with here a lot is we have a UK company, right? And we operate all throughout EMEA. And a lot of our contracts with our customers are in euros. But in UK, their overhead, their salary, their, like I said, their payroll, their rent, taxes are all in GBP. So what you're going to see is a building of cash in euros, and your AP is in the local GBP currency. So there, the best strategy again is a forward. Now, I shared a spreadsheet with Joe. Joe, would you be able to share that with the
You
group?
want to share that on the screen here, Joe?
Yeah, go ahead and share it on the screen if you could.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, and just so the community knows, I'm gonna go ahead and post the spreadsheet afterward to the community. We can upload documents there.
See if I can.
So I think with anything in Treasury, just the data is the most important part. Understanding your exposure is the biggest takeaway you should take from this. If you cannot understand your exposure and don't have a good grasp of your shortfalls, you're going to be in trouble. So you need to make sure that you're out there talking with your operations teams and getting a good forecast together, because your hedge is only as good as your forecast. So what I provided, what I provided the guys over there was just, it's a basic spreadsheet that it allows you to just capture some of the inflows and outflows in the various currencies. And then over to the left there, you see like just what's your functional currency. And it allows you to not only, this spreadsheet not only will allow you to hedge your transaction exposure, but it'll also allow you to do your balance sheet exposure, because ultimately, like in our case, right? So our UK company reports their financials in GBP, but at the end of the day, we need to roll that up into dollars. So this spreadsheet not only gives you the exposure of the the company, in this example, the UK company, but it also shows you the exposure of back to the US dollar. So it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, again, it's just a good way for you to record your information. Again, all this stuff can get thrown out the window if you're not getting a good forecast together. And here, I think, is a good just template to use for you to just record all that, and it'll give you a good just kind of snapshot of where your deficits and surpluses are and what currencies and where your exposure is. Now, once the exposure is identified and it's over a period of time, here's the strategy you should use. So let's just say that over a 3-month period, you've identified a shortfall of GBP of, it doesn't matter, X dollars, right? Or excuse me, X pounds. And, month 1, month 2, month 3. So what I suggest doing is a layered hedge, a layered forward hedge approach, which is for those 3 months, okay, you're gonna have 3 separate contracts with your bank. So, like I said, you identified the next 3 months of exposure you have to whichever currency is on the spreadsheet there. For contract 1, you're gonna hedge 100% of your exposure in month 1. Month 2, you're going to hedge 75% of your exposure. And month 3, you're going to hedge 50% of your exposure. Now, 1 month has elapsed since that happened, okay? Now you're getting into month 2. In that time, you need to have refreshed your forecast and gone through this exercise again. Now you have brand new numbers, okay? You can kind of, now at the beginning of month 2, you're truing up where you missed on forecast 1 on your first contract, and you're going to do the same thing. So month 1, you're hedging 100%, 2, 75, 3, 50%, and then rinse and repeat. Again, like, it's not going to be perfect, but you're going to mitigate your risk much more than you would had you not implemented a program like this. The thing with hedging and with FX, with hedging your FX, is to set the expectations with your CFO. You're not hedging to make money. hedging is an insurance product. So you're expecting to lose. I mean, you're going to lose. But if things kind of, that first risk that we talked about, that just economic risk, if things kind of go just crazy, like you're going to be safe, you're going to be protected. And it just kind of takes the guessing out of it. I think, there's kind of a lot of good that can come from that. But, the forward, again, just the vanilla forward is, in my opinion, the best type of strategy that can be used for, these different types of transaction hedges. So
Tony, out of curiosity, are there other hedging strategies, and maybe if it's possible to give, if it can be a brief example of when you might use those, because you mentioned forwards, but again, we've heard about some of the other strategies out there.
So yeah, so there's different variations of forwards. I mean, like I said, so I was just talking plain vanilla. I already talked about the window, but there's also something called a non-deliverable forward, where, like, if you're dealing with a country that has a restricted currency, like the Brazil Real is a good example of that. It's a restricted currency, so there's a lot of regulations behind that. So in that example, you wouldn't be able to do just a regular forward. You employ the same strategy, but essentially it's like no money gets exchanged. It's all kind of papered with your bank. And in that instance, it's like, at the maturity of the contract, you either lost or you gained, and your bank is going to settle with you in your currency. So, that's just a variation on that. There are other things like futures and spots. That's, again, where you're getting into just more complex derivatives. Now, I mean, that's very complex. It's similar to a forward hedge, but there you're entering into, contracts with people, and you're agreeing to actually purchase, the currency at a point in time with a third party, and there's different markets attached to it. I mean, it's all similar in kind of just different levels of what the forward can do. There again, that's where you're getting into, like, okay, I'm going to get into seeing if I can actually make money on a hedge. And that's not what we do here as Treasury people. We're just here to mitigate risk. The other is a swap. Like, say that you're, you do business in Japan, right? And you need to borrow money. You need to borrow, the yen. That's what you need to. You need a revolving credit facility that's in that local currency, and you're going to enter into a facility over, 5 years. And that type of hedge, it would be a swap. So, yes, your credit facility is in yen, but you can do a swap where you're fixing out the yen to USD rate over that 5 years in the beginning. So they're essentially going to, again, the bank's going to do their modeling, and they're going to give you, you can go on any of the, like, Owanda, and you can get the 5-year swap rate for all this stuff, and that's kind of what they'll do their pricing based off of. But the swap is a good product if you need to do that kind of hedge. So.
I was muted there. Sorry about that. That's excellent information there, Tony. Guys, anybody else have any follow-up questions? Any of that there?
Do we have questions from our audience here?
Any questions? Nothing that's come in yet. Just some comments. Joe B. Williams said earlier that when you were talking about how you met some race car drivers, that I met Hulk Hogan at work one day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would trade that for the NASCAR. Like,
who'd you meet? Was it Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon?
No. It was the driver from, whoever the driver was from Penske. Like, I don't even know his name, but like I said, he was a popular guy. I just, you know, I again, like, I'm jealous of the Hulk Hogan guy because honestly, like, I don't know if you guys were fans of WWF when you were younger, but like 80s Hulk Hogan wrestling back to when I was a kid, like, God, like, you couldn't beat that.
Yeah, I've got 7, 9, and 13-year-old boy. We're regular consumers of WWE there. So
I went through another period like in the early 2000s on it as well with like The Rock and Stone Cold, but you know, maybe my guys will get into that, you know, in a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, awesome, Tony. Thank you for being here with us today. Joe, did you have anything else you wanted to?
No, you know, Tony, thanks for your time. It's been great. It is a small world. Jay Penske actually went to my high school, so didn't know that when we had talked before. It's although you're in Philly, I'm in Metro Detroit, and that's the connection there. And I also came up on The Rock and Stone Cold and D-Generation X, so it was a good time for wrestling at that point. But again, thanks for covering FX and risk management with us. I mean, it's been informational. It's the stuff that we talk about every day. And like Simon said earlier, we can't do it, but we know enough about it to ask the right questions, and you're arming us with that information as well. So thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of information and a lot of it was high level. And if there's any follow-up questions, I'll be happy to kind of, you know, respond through, you know, Facebook or whatever. And you know, I was happy
we'll get if anyone's interested, we'll get them to reach out to you on LinkedIn, Tony.
Okay, great. Sure.
Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks,
Facebook
guys.
group, we will see you next Wednesday for another live. Everybody in the States here, have a happy 4th of July. Happy Canada Day today. And Simon, happy Australian Day. I don't know what that is.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Everyone, we'll see you next week. We'll talk to you soon.